If you're a salon or spa owner working nonstop, barely paying yourself, and terrified to step away because it might all fall apart, you're not alone. Most salon and spa owners were never taught the business side of this industry, and that makes it feel impossible to get ahead. Welcome to the station, where we give you the structure, systems, and strategies to step into the CEO seat and lead like the legend you are. Hey friends, welcome back to the station. This is the podcast for salon and spa owners who are ready to cut through the chaos, step into real leadership, and finally build a business that gives you back your life. I'm Bree, founder of the Beauty Biz Agency, and as always, I've got my amazing co-host, co-founder, and bestie, Chandra, here with me today. Hey girl, how are you?
Hello, doing good.
Awesome. Well, today's topic is one that makes a lot of salon and spa owners very uncomfortable. We are talking about your paycheck. Not your team's, not your stylist, but yours. Here's the reality. The majority of owners are paying themselves pretty much like leftovers after dinner. That's what it looks like. Whatever's left over after payroll, rent, supplies, back bar, that's kind of what they get. And a lot of times, it's not really much at all, regardless of what everybody out there on social media thinks. It's not much. In fact, sometimes you probably don't pay yourself anything at all. But let's just kind of call it like it is. If your business doesn't pay you consistently as the owner, you don't have a business, my friend. You've got a really expensive job. And I know, Chandra and I both know, you didn't get into ownership just to live stressed and broke and hoping that there's something left for you after everybody else is paid. So in this episode, we are going to talk about what healthy owner pay actually looks like, why paying yourself based on commission or scraps kind of keep you trapped, and how to set up a paycheck that finally puts you in the CEO seat where you belong. So before we dive in, we have to share a win that still fires us up to this day. When this owner first came to the Beauty Biz Agency, her salon was pulling in over $800,000 a year. And on the outside, people thought that she had it made. But when we started pulling back those layers and the curtain, her personal paycheck, it was completely unstable. That's the only way I know how to put it. Some months, sure, she took a draw. Some months, she didn't take anything at all. Here's the wild part, though. She was paying herself commission for her own clients. And a lot of you do this, right? This is what you do. That means the only time she got paid was when she worked behind the chair. That might sound logical to you guys, but it is the exact trap that is going to keep you stuck the same way it did her, because it ties her personal income to the one role she was supposed to be stepping out of. So the more she worked behind the chair, sure, the more she got paid. And the less she worked, the less she had to live on. That's sad. She wasn't being paid for being the CEO. She was being paid for literally being a stylist. So we got to work, we restructured a few key systems, and we made sure that we built her a very healthy owner pay into those systems. Not random draws at different times, not commission from performing services, but a consistent salary based on the business revenue. And the difference was literally night and day. For the first time, she could pay herself without panicking, and she finally felt like she was in control instead of being chained to her chair. Chandra, I feel like this happens all the time. Owners think paying themselves commission is smart because it's what feels fair or it's what they know to do, but it actually keeps them stuck. Why do you think so many people fall into that?
I mean, I think because they start out that way, right? Like they start out doing hair. They did hair for all these years. That's how they got paid. That's how they made their money. And I think stepping into the salon ownership role, it always seems challenging for salon owners to flip from being service provider to owner. And I think that that's what's comfortable. That's what they feel. And they're afraid taking money from the business, but they think, oh, well, if I just do haircuts, I can take money from haircuts. But really, that is keeping you stuck in that service provider role, and you're not paying yourself for actually owning a business. So then why do you even have a business? It's like, it doesn't feel like it makes any sense. And so I think that's why I think they're used to it and it feels comfortable, and they're just afraid. It kind of means you have to step into ownership role. And I think they're afraid sometimes that they have to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to talk about why so many salon owners don't pay themselves at all, or if they do, why it's inconsistent, random, or way less than it ever should be. This is one of those things that I think, and I hate this word, but it's so true in our industry that keeps them in that survival mode, right? And over time, I don't care what anybody says, it does make you resentful. It makes you burnt out and it makes you question, what am I even doing all of this for? I've been there. I know that feeling. And it's honestly, it's heartbreaking. Until I really started coaching owners over 6 years ago, I didn't realize how often this was happening. I thought, I knew it happened to me years ago, but I didn't realize how often it was happening. I think there are really three traps that most owners fall into when it comes to owner pay. The first trap that we see or that we tend to see is what we call that leftover paycheck trap, right? You tell yourself, you know what? I'm just going to take this little bit that's left over after everything else is paid. But here's the problem with that. If you are paying attention to stuff, a lot of times there's barely anything left over because you're not running things correctly, right? Because expenses, they always seem to grow to match whatever's coming in, especially if you don't have systems in place. Something is always going to break. Someone always needs something, or you convince yourself maybe to, we see this a lot, reinvest into their business one more time. So you keep waiting for that magical month where the stars are just going to align and you've got some extra cash sitting there, but it just never comes. Chandra, how many times have you seen owners just hope that there's going to be something left over? And what does that usually do to them long term?
Well, I think that happens a lot. Like, I agree with you too, a lot more than I realized until after working with so many owners and seeing that most of them are doing this. And I think it starts to make them feel like less like you lose your self worth a little bit. I think that it makes them more afraid to actually step up and run their business. I think it makes them feel small. And I think they just don't know, like they're not worthy, and so they get used to only taking what's left over, and then it really hurts their confidence as an owner. I mean, I feel like we see that all the time, and it's like once they start getting a little bit more, they start to realize that they get their confidence back. And I think it's really sad. I've been there too. Like I feel like we've all been in that trap. And so, but yeah, crazy.
Well, that's what I love about this podcast is everything that we talk about, you and I have actually been through. We've felt these emotions. We've felt the heartache, right? We've felt the frustration and the resentment and the burnout and the exhaustion and all of those things. And so we're not coming to people just giving them advice and coaching and preaching at them. Like we are telling you guys what we've learned from our actual mistakes. The second trap is the one that we've talked about, and that's paying yourself off of your commission behind the chair. Listen, we get why owners do this. We said that. It feels safe. It feels familiar. It feels like you're earning it that way. I think that's a big thing, right? But the problem, once again, if your entire paycheck depends on you producing services, you are going to be stuck in that probably top stylist role forever in your business. That's not good for your team morale either. It's really not. There's no way out when you do this. And you're never going to be able to grow a business that's going to provide for you and your family long term if your personal income depends on you grinding behind the chair 5, 6, 7 days a week. That isn't leadership, guys. It's just another job. And it's one that you can never quit or really retire from. You just can't. Chandra, I know that you have talked with a ton of salon owners who rely on that commission as their paycheck. Something else that we find is that commission a lot of times is a lot lower than the rest of their teams. What do you usually tell them when they say that they are scared to step back from the chair because of the revenue they're bringing in and the paycheck that that is providing them?
I mean, it is a scary transition for sure. And I think the biggest thing that you have to look at when you're going through that, and that, we teach them and try to get them there, is once you put those systems in place and you can start to step back and you can start to see your profitability and you can start to have more money, you can take that money, you can take a paycheck, you can take a salary, And we've had some people that we've even exceeded what they were taking in commission from their salary after they got all those things in line. So I think it is scary, but I think making that transition, once you make it and you start to step into that role of being the CEO and being the owner, it changes a lot for them for sure. So I just try to, coach them through that process. Like, it will be worth it. And we can get through this and you'll see it, but we have to put these systems in place, because if you don't, then you can't do it. It's like it is going to fail. So you've got to have that extra piece. You can't just pull out and be like, cool, I'm just going to take money now.
Well, and I think one of the most beautiful things that I see when owners are inside of this trap and we coach them through kind of how to get out of that service provision role in a very structured way. Something that owners don't realize is this is allowing your team to make more money too, because you are offloading those clients to your team members, which means what? They are making more commission because they are servicing more clients. That's a huge piece that owners just don't see, don't understand, don't realize, whatever it is, but it makes a massive difference for your team members. Okay, the third trap is guilt. And this one runs really, really deep. We have worked with so many owners that tell us, you know what? I don't feel right making more than my team does. They are the ones doing all the work. Guys, no. Here's what we need you to hear. You are the one doing the majority of the work. You are the one carrying all the risk, the responsibility, the sleepless nights, all of that. If the salon has a bad month, your team still gets paid, right? You are the one left figuring out and scrambling over how you're going to cover it. That risk, it deserves compensation. Feeling guilty about paying yourself is like saying you don't deserve to be taken care of in the very business that you created. Chandra, I think this guilt thing is a huge one. Why do you think so many owners struggle with feeling like they don't deserve to make more than their team members?
I think because they just can't get out of the service provider mindset. And I feel like they're so used to that's my contribution. That's how I make money. That's how I do all the things, like bring in money, whatever. And I think they get stuck in that mindset, because I remember thinking that in the very beginning too. You feel like you're not pulling your weight when you aren't providing services. And I think that's, just like you said, it's the wrong way to think about it, because you're the one running the business. You're the one, again, taking all the risks, taking all the stress, dealing with all the employees, doing all the things. You should be compensated for that at the level that you can be. And that's why you opened a business in the first place. And I think they just get so stuck in that mindset of like, they're the team, right? Like they're just like the team, and they're they feel guilty if the team is cranking and they're over here, in their little office doing whatever. But it's so different, and you do have to kind of get over that, I think, because I went through a little bit of that transition myself, and it's like you finally realize, like, no, wait, I'm putting up with all this crap. I should be getting paid more than everybody else.
It's such a dangerous mindset to stay stuck in that stylist mindset instead of business owner mindset. Yet, once again, 90% of salon and spa owners do it. Okay, the fourth one is what we like to call the chaos paycheck. This means no benchmarks, no structure, literally no plan. You just kind of guess. Some months you take a little bit of this, some months you take nothing, some months you take a lot of that, right? It's like you're panicking. And then you pull this huge draw that just wrecks your account if you're not careful. That kind of inconsistency, it's not just going to hurt you, it's going to wreck your ability to build a healthy business, because you're reacting with the money that's coming in instead of leading it in a way with system and structure. That one, Chandra, I think isn't talked about enough, because owner pay has to have all of those things in place. You've talked about it a lot throughout this episode. People have to have those benchmarks, those KPIs, all of those things in place for owner pay. It's no different than what you set up for your stylist. It looks a little different. Yes, the KPIs and benchmarks look different, but the structure is set up in the same way, right?
For sure.
All right. So we talked about the traps, but let's kind of ground all of this in a little bit of math, just so people kind of understand kind of what it should look like, because I think that's where it gets kind of real. So let's just say that your salon does $500,000 in revenue every year. If that's the case, your paycheck as the CEO, that means for you doing the work on the business. I need you to hear that. Not servicing clients. Your check should be somewhere in the $50,000 to $75,000 range. That's what you should be aiming for. That is 10 to 15% of your gross. If your salon does $1,000,000, you should be paying yourself 100 to 150,000. That's before we even talk about profit distributions. That's just your owner's salary. This is what it looks like for you when you have a healthy business, when you have these structures and these systems in place. How many of you out there listening would love to be able to be in that CEO role, that CEO seat, and be able to pay yourself this type of money? I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight because it's not, but you can start setting the path up for success so that you can get there eventually. It's really, really important. I don't think anybody understands how important it is. Let's just say that you're paying yourself off of commission right now. If you're behind the chair and you're bringing in $200,000 in revenue personally, and you're taking home 40% in commission, that's $80,000, right? Sounds okay until you realize that to keep that paycheck, you have to stay glued to that chair forever. You can't do that and run your business at the same time. It's not possible. I don't know about you, Chandra, but I would rather build my business, hit that $1,000,000 plus mark, lead from the CEO role, build my team, and pay myself that great salary every single month.
Yeah.
That's the logical thing to do, right? If you step out and build those systems, if you let your team carry the revenue, the salon is still going to keep the same profit margins. And now your paycheck isn't tied to labor, it's tied to leadership. That is the only way that you can scale a business. Only way. Chandra, why? Let me ask you this. When you show an owner those real numbers, like when we're coaching them and guiding them through this, what their paycheck should actually be, what it could look like if they're doing the things that they're supposed to do, what is the first shift that you start to see in them?
Well, I think they start to step up more in that CEO role. I think they start to feel like it's possible. They start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I also think they start to realize how much they've been sabotaging their own paycheck. Because I feel like when we start breaking all of that down, it's really their spending habits or their organization, the systems they have for themselves. And they're just like, oh, crap. Like, I didn't realize I've been, you know, I could have been paying myself this all along had I just done XYZ. Right. And I
And
think that's always crazy when you see that.
yeah, and you're right. A lot of it does come down to no structure and the spending habits, right? It's insane to me. Those shifts are what is going to change everything for you. This is where you actually start scaling for real. Like you really get to do that. Here's one more gut check that I want you to think about because this is something that we see quite often. If you are running a $1,000,000 business and you are not paying yourself at least six figures, your business model is broken. It really is because there is no CEO out there of $1,000,000 company that is living paycheck to paycheck, that's running their business correctly. They aren't dipping in just to take draws in order to survive in their personal life. It's the truth, and it's the truth that most salon owners don't want to face. Your paycheck can never be the leftover. It shouldn't be commission. It isn't a someday when things feel easier reward. It's not. It is a non-negotiable line item in your business model. And until you start treating it that way, you are going to stay stuck in this cycle of stress, guilt, chaos, whatever it is, no matter how much revenue your salon brings in. Don't you think that, Chandra? I mean, that's exactly what it is, right?
100%.
All right, let's turn this into something that you can actually use because we don't want this episode to just be some wake up call for you. We want it to be a turning point for you. So here's what we want you guys to do. Step number one is pull your numbers. You are going to hear that from us probably every other episode. I don't care if it's QuickBooks, your POS system. I don't care if you have a freaking notebook with stuff written down. Get those numbers out. Look at your revenue for the last 12 months and average it out by month. That number is going to be your baseline. You cannot make decisions without those numbers. You have to have the math in front of you. Step number 2, calculate your paycheck range. Take that average monthly revenue and multiply it by 10 to 15%. That is what your salary should be falling between. So if you're averaging 50K a month in revenue, your paycheck needs to be somewhere between 5 and 7K a month. Literally, that's it. That's not a someday number. That is today's reality check. So if you're not there, we've got to figure out how to get you there. Step number 3, stop paying yourself on commission. This one's tough love, but it really needs to happen. If your only paycheck is the commission that you're making behind the chair, you are locking yourself into that role of that stylist forever. And I know you don't want that. None of you guys want that. You wouldn't have opened a business. You wouldn't deal with all these headaches if that's what you wanted. Your commission is not your CEO salary. Your salary needs to exist whether you are behind the chair or not. That is how you build a business, not just a job. Step number 4, put it on payroll. Pay yourself the exact same way that you pay everyone else. Pick a number, even if it's small at first, it's okay. Just pay it consistently. Every week, every 2 weeks, every month, no excuses. Consistency is going to be the key. It's better to pay yourself $500 every 2 weeks on time than take $2,000 here and there when you're panicked or you need to pay something at your house, right? Stability is going to build confidence, and confidence is what's going to allow you to grow. Step number 5, check those benchmarks. If your paycheck feels impossible right now, it's not because owner pay is unrealistic. It's because your systems are out of balance. Payroll, maybe it's eating up 60%, right? Back bar, maybe it's running 40%. You've got discounts everywhere. You're losing money. That's why there's nothing left for you. You have to get those numbers back in line. We have an amazing tracker that walks you through exactly how to do that. And here's the last piece that I want everybody to hear. This is not about being greedy. I am so sick of hearing that from stylists out there that have never run a salon, or even hearing that from other salon owners. I get so angry when owners feel this way, and it breaks my heart. This is about leadership. Because when you pay yourself as the CEO of your business, you are able to stabilize your life. And when your life is stable, you are going to stop leading from panic, and you become more invested in a way that is going to change everything for you, your team, and your business. You're going to make clearer decisions. You are going to show up stronger for your team. Your salon is finally going to have a leader who isn't running on fumes every single second of every day. That's what your paycheck represents. Chandra, when you see an owner start paying themselves consistently, even if it's a small amount at first, what kind of change does it create in the way that they lead their business day to day?
I think it instantly starts to give them more confidence. I mean, even when we've just put in like that tiny salary for someone who has either not been taking a check at all, or who's been taking very little bits, like you said, here and there, they start to build their confidence, and they start to actually put into the business, like in a way they're giving it more of what it needs. They're stepping up, and they're showing up, and they're doing what they need to do to grow it. And it just gets better and better and better. Because when you step into that role, your income could be limitless. Like if you're cranking behind the chair, you hit that glass ceiling, you can't do anything else. When you start putting more into your team, helping your team grow, helping them generate more revenue, helping the business grow, you can make more money too. And so I think that they start to realize that and get out of that service provider mindset a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, think about it this way. When you are behind the chair, you are doing your very best on, or you should be anyway, on every single client that sits there, right? You are taking care of them, taking pride in your work, doing all of those things, and you expect to get compensated for it. It's no different when you're a business owner. When you are doing team meetings, when you are creating KPIs and benchmarks, when you are creating systems, when you are doing the marketing and the social media and all of those things for your business, you should be taking pride in that too. You should be taking initiative, and you should be getting compensated for it. All right, guys, those are the moves that you need to make. It's not about some big overnight change. It's just about getting really clear on the numbers, getting yourself out of that stylist or commission mindset, putting yourself on payroll, and making your paycheck part of the plan instead of an afterthought. Look, I know, I know money talk is heavy. It gets really, really heavy. It makes people uncomfortable. It brings up fear, it brings up guilt, and it brings up a whole lot of bad habits that we have in all reality. But the second that you decide your paycheck is no longer non negotiable, I promise you everything will change. You will show up differently, like Chandra said. You stop leading out of panic and fear and all of those things, and you become more confident. Okay, let's switch gears for just a minute because I know you all send in some really good questions, and this one goes way beyond today's topic, but we're going to get to it anyway. Okay, Chandra, here we go. What do I do when I feel like I'm the only one who actually cares about my business culture in my studio? My team says that they want a positive culture, but then they turn around and start gossiping. They show up late, or they just don't take it or me seriously.
Yeah, I think, and we talk about this a lot, but I think it's time for an owner reset. And I think you have to look at yourself, look at the way you're leading, look at the way that you're training that team to behave. And you might have to start putting your foot down and holding people accountable and making sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing and that those kinds of things are not tolerated in your business, in your culture. And it's hard and it's not an easy thing to do because you might lose some people or you might rock the boat. But I think doing a reset where you really, talk to your team, be real, like this is not going to keep happening. And this is why, and this is who we are, and how we want to be. And these are the expectations of our business. So I would say it's time for a reset and you need to see what you're doing to cause that behavior. Not to be mean, but usually it stems from that, especially if it's running out of, if everybody's doing it.
100%. Culture isn't created by talking about how much you want a good culture, right? It's created by what you tolerate and what you reinforce. 100%. All right. So here's what we want you guys to take away from today. If your salon is paying everybody else but you don't actually own a business. You own a very, very, very stressful, very expensive job. Nobody wants that. I know it's tough to hear, but it's the truth. You deserve a paycheck. You carry the risk, you carry the stress, you carry the responsibility, and your pay cannot be the leftovers any longer. The second you start building your paycheck into your model, everything's going to shift. Not just your bank account, but the way you show up as the leader. You stop making desperate decisions, you stop resenting your business, and you stop living in survival mode. Listen, if you're sitting there and you are realizing this is exactly what's been happening in your salon or spa business, you don't have to figure any of this out alone. We have tools, resources, and coaching that will help you finally get your numbers in line and pay yourself what you actually deserve. All you have to do is head over to www.thebeautybizagency.com. That is where you will find everything you need to start structuring your salon to pay everybody, including yourself. Chandra, before we wrap up, what's one thing you'd say to the owner who is listening right now and they know they've been treating their paycheck like these leftovers, but they are really, really scared to make a change?
Yeah, I think you have to make the change. I think that is the only way you're going to get out of how you're doing business right now, taking those leftovers and doing the things that you're doing. So I think just sit down, look at your numbers, go through your books, see where it's at, and see where you can consistently pay yourself, like you said, and start just putting yourself on that, whatever your pay structure schedule is, any sort of small pay. If you're taking leftovers now, small pay is going to be better than leftovers, right? So see what you can figure out, what you can pay, and then start just consistently working on those numbers and increasing it from there. And if you need help, like Bree said, we've got an amazing tracker. So you can definitely reach out to us for coaching.
Absolutely. All right, guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, do us a favor, like, follow, share, and leave us a review. Reviews help us so much. It helps salon owners find this podcast and they let us know what's really connecting with each and every one of you. And if you want to keep up with us day to day, make sure you are following along on all platforms. Chandra, tell them how they can do that.
You can follow us at the Beauty Biz Agency on Facebook or Instagram, or the Beauty Biz Mentors on TikTok. And you can, join us live the first Monday of every month at 6 p.m. Central Time on Facebook or YouTube, and hop on there. We do live Q&A and just get some inspiration and hear what's going on with other owners.
Sweet, sweet. That's a wrap on today's episode of The Station. Until next time, stop treating your paycheck like an afterthought. Decide today that you are going to build a business that pays you consistently because you've earned it and your salon can't afford to keep running without a real CEO in charge. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and